are going to be trying to get their hands on a Black Feather pick, but then both of them could also play this Rona to counter it. So I think it's going to be really, really important to watch this lane matchup and see, that the harassment that we've heard about. Hundor's talked about Kvalfar's ability to, just push his opponent out of the lane, make them miss CS, but sometimes it causes him to miss CS at the same time. So it's going to be incredible.
Yeah, hugely about that lane focus. Rhyme will be the first pick of this draft after Black Feather and Cruel were taken off the board, and then Petal will be the response from SK.
Yeah, I mean, G2 came out prioritizing the jungle picks, banning the Cruel, and then getting the Rhyme so that they have a more dominant jungler for Dark Potato so that he can play aggressive if he so chooses to. SK went for the first pick Petal to counter the Rhyme. This is something we saw come out from C9 yesterday, I believe. And that could be a jungler that plays into the Rhyme very well, and at the same time, it's a flex pick that can go to the lane.
I also like the fact they ban away the Baron from Hundor, just saying, you know what, we are not going to lose to Hundor's Baron today, getting that out of the question. So now with the Reza ban, that's what Tyrus has been playing a fair bit of recently. It'll be interesting to see what he kind of moves over to now. He's played the Alpha. We know he is always willing to fall back to a Samuel pick, but we're going to have to wait and see because they do grab the Lyra on the side of SK. Now G2, they have plenty of options for this captain. They can pick up the Grace if they want to match healing for healing. They could go for the Arden for that big tankiness. They could go for the Lance, who we've seen become this massive playmaker across the Vainglory8. So their options when it comes to the captains are still wide open.
One thing to note about the Petal also is that Tyrus is he's not most known for his Petal, so this is most likely going to be going to Kvalifar in the lane. But at the same time, as I said, because they picked up the Roamer as well, second rotation, they're leaving G2 guessing where it's going to go.
Yeah, it's most likely going off of historic where they've played this pick when they've grabbed it. It will go to Kvalifar, but if there is something that you've been practicing, if there's something you've been keeping away from opponents, now is the time to pull it out. If you are these two teams, now is the time where you cannot hold anything back.
This is absolutely the time to bring out any pocket picks, any aces up the sleeves for these two teams. Arden will be the lock-in for G2 Esports here. That's going to be going over to the likes of Keanu Nakoa. And now for the final pick, G2. They're going to lock in the Saw. This is going to be an interesting one.
This is going to be a very strong composition as well. All out on the early game. We have so much pressure coming out from both Saw and Rhyme. They can apply it in both the lane and the jungle, and that's a traditional composition where you pressure both points on the map and then your opponents can't respond to either.
Yeah, it's a traditional composition, but it's kind of the opposite from the traditional playstyle of this team specifically. This is an epitome of the evolution we've seen of G2 over the course of the season.
And it's also a very smart draft because what's the pick that's generally been seen as the counter to Saw? It's a Celeste, and there's not much of a chance of Celeste coming through for SK Gaming because that would then put either the Petal in the lane and with a double Crystal composition, or Tyra's playing the Celeste, which is something that we have not seen at all. So it's a very smart pick from G2 just because it puts so much pressure onto SK, and with their final pick, they are going to grab that Kestrel. So it's likely to be the Petal in the jungle with the weapon Kestrel up in the lane.
Yeah, I was expecting that to come through just because at that point they needed to play the Petal in the jungle. They can't go weapon power battle against the Saw. They will just get destroyed super hard. So they had two choices. They either play the Petal in lane and then pick up a jungle Celeste, and that could counter the Saw, or what they did, which is pick up the Kestrel who can wave clear versus the Saw. We talked to DNZO even yesterday in the interview, and he was saying how much her Glimmer shots help her survive the early game because she can wave clear very easily.
Yeah, you can just clear those minions so that you can't get sieged on yourself. How are we feeling about the compositions then? It feels like G2 have to be the ones being proactive in this early game.
Very much so. The Saw needs to get an early lead, which is what he excels at, and then Rhyme needs to be pressuring this jungle, needs to be trying to get an early lead for himself as well so they can start pushing those turrets.
Absolutely. We'll see if they can get those early leads. What's the counterplay, though, coming out from SK? What do they need to do to match their win conditions?
I mean, they're just going to need to stall out for as long as they can. Even might have to forfeit the first turret because usually you're definitely going to lose that first turret to Saw at some point in the game. So instead of giving kills on top of the turret, you just want to forfeit. You just try to hold it for as long as possible, but then when you're about to lose it, let it go. Help your jungler get ahead of Rhyme if possible by focusing on the jungle himself instead of coming up and helping the lane. That's the counterplay. And then using the ladder sustain very effectively could be another one.
Yeah, it's also going to be really interesting to see how exactly G2 try and pressure that first turret. We've seen teams try and put all 3 members in the lane to take that turret as early as possible. And if they do that, then like you said, the counterplay to it is just you have your jungler go clear out the entirety of the jungle and just defend as best as you can with just 2 members. We've seen other teams do this and work very well. But if G2 are only pressuring with 2, all of a sudden it becomes a lot more difficult.
And that's why this composition is so dangerous, is because it can do that strategy where you apply the pressure in lane with only the Saw and the Arden, and then Rhyme on his own goes and invades the jungle. The only thing is that he's going to be going up against the CP Petal, which technically in that matchup, it can go either way. So it's going to be about the skill of these 2 players, Dark Potato and Tyrus.
Yeah, it's going to be such an incredible matchup on all 3 roles as well. It's about time that we start to get on into this game, though. This is SK Gaming against G2 Esports. Please get on Twitter, tweet this game out. This is going to be the premium EU matchup of the entire season, of the entire year, I think. This is going to be an incredible matchup. Get involved. Hashtag Vainglory8. Let us know who you are supporting. You can support both these teams in-game as well. It's time to pass it over to our casters. It's Jaws and Sean Orsino to take it away.
Thank you very much, Munch. Not understated in the slightest. G2 and SK, this game, this series decides the world spot near enough. If SK win, they get a 2-0 here, Sean. They go straight to Worlds. If G2 win, they've still got another hurdle to climb, and that's going to be the finals, and it all comes down to the points in that regard. We're going to jump straight onto the fold. G2 on the blue, SK, they're over on the red.
Yeah, Josh, just like what you were talking about. Right now, SK's still in the lead. They have only 3 points separating these 2 titans right now. If SK just wins this series, they're going to be secured for their world spot in Singapore. But, of course, and it looks like that Elder Treant's actually going over to Hundor there for G2. Good start for them. But if G2 crushes them in this series and takes SK out, even with of course with a 2-0, then it's going to make things a lot more difficult for SK to be able to make it there. And there's a lot of tiebreaker stuff that they were mentioning on the desk, and we'll probably hear more about it later on. But this is going to be an exciting series.
Yeah, that it is. And with the Cavalifar coming up into the lane against Hundor, not unfortunately on the Celeste, I'm not going to lie, Celeste obviously being one of his premier picks, it's always exciting to see him on it, but this Saw is going to push turret pretty quickly, and it's got so much protection as well coming through from Keanu, just being that massive front line that he needs. Now, Hegman and Cavalifar up in this lane. Do you think that's where they're going to permanently sit, just harassing Hundor down? Because Saw does what Saw does best, and that is push turrets and push turrets quickly.
He pushes turrets, he pushes objectives really quickly, but Kestrel is a force to be reckoned with too here, and if Kestrel is allowed to scale to late game, she can get some really good damage, of course, with her Glimmer shots, getting a Sorrow Blade, double Tyrant's Monocle, maybe even a Tornado trigger in there as well. But Keanu Nakoa is really doing a good job so far, which is he's providing that protection, that extra barrier that Hundor needs to stay alive and mobile on this Saw, because we know Saw is very, very immobile. And it looks like Hegman and him are poking at each other right now.
Yeah, he wants to go back. He actually has 1,400 gold, so really wants to be able to shop at this point, but is forced to actually clear out the wave. So pretty smart of Hegman to actually disrupt Hundor's back there, just prevents him from getting the priority in the lane, and Cavalifar is going to get just that as he clears these last couple of minions out. However, Keanu is back in the lane as well, so it looks like an extended laning phase for G2 as the next wave does roll on about. Jungle is very quiet here, and so are captains. Remember yesterday we had a captain fiesta of stealing every single global objective that was possible, but Dark Potato and Tyrus just battling over this Elder Treant. Dark Potato has a level lead, however.
He does. He's up 1 level over Tyrus, and that's something we're going to have to watch here too. We're going to have to watch these jungle engages, and here we go.
Oh, it's going to get taken. Tyrus actually secures it. Hundor did rotate his way down to the lane, to the Elder Treant as well. Tyrus chasing, and Hegman putting on a lot of pressure. Leaves Cavalifar with a lot of time, but Tyrus in a lot of trouble now as Keanu and Hundor end up jumping on him with that suppressing fire, but they're back off nonetheless, playing it low and slow for the first few minutes of the game.
That's a really interesting interaction that we have here between Tyrus and Hundor on this Saw, is that once Saw gets his suppressing fire down, if Tyrus is running at him with those minions are going to get deleted. And if you have minions deleted, that drastically reduces the damage output coming out of a pedal like this, especially a CP pedal nonetheless. Dark Potato, across the board, he's going to have to be diving in and doing a lot of harass and poke. We know that Rhyme can do that, especially with his fortified health that he's able to build up. Looks like we're going to be building towards the Shatter Glass, the typical first item for Rhyme. And same thing for Tyrus. He's going to have to be building a Shatter Glass as well. Once he does that, that's going to give some really good tankiness to his minions, and it's going to increase the damage output as well from those minions.
And well, he's got a few crystal bits, only a couple in his inventory, so he's more than looking for some early damage. Dark Potato up in the lane, however, he's level 5, no Valkyrie available just yet, but the engage potential is always there for G2. Hegman with the sustain. I've got a feeling this is going to be one of the breaking points in this game, because Hundor does love to push these turrets, but Hegman's just so durable. And speaking of durable, hang on a second, because that's going to be first blow going straight over to Tyrus as he makes his way towards the lane. Backing off, though, that sigil being used, but Dark Potato and Keanu are going to be able to chase him down. Keanu finds the first blood for G2. 1-for-1 trade so far, but SK, they've cornered G2 here, backing them off into their own jungle. They're going to beat that Crystal Sentry if they're not careful here.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to steal away some of that farm. A little bit of the counter jungling, you know, as they lost the first blood there. But really smart move in that team fight from Tyrus by ganking Hundor while he was in that mustache bush.
They might still be in trouble here. Yeah, Hegman and Cavalifar are chasing Dark Potato up. He's going extremely low. The Sigil not quite finding the kill, and Hegman gets a couple of basic attacks off and secures it in the end just with his passive. Tyrus going extremely low as Hundor actually was pushing him up in the lane, but now using that roadie run to get a bit of distance. But SK still come out on top with the 2 kills over 1.
You see that Hundor really wanted to push the lane right there, and they have gotten quite a bit of damage on that turret. But the thing is that when he's alone, Saw is just so vulnerable. He's so immobile. When he spins up fully, it reduces his mobility so much, and he needs these vanguards to be able to get out of sticky situations.
Well, he's backed underneath his own turret right now. Keanu's extremely low also, but does have the passive of the Fountain to actually regenerate some HP. Tyrus making his way towards the lane. Dark Potato doing the same as well. Those minions are going to start stacking up as he's almost completed that Shatter Glass, which you can imagine is going to be the first item on board. Hundor takes a 1-shot, 1-kill as well. SK, they're coming in this game strong. They know where the strengths of G2 are, and it's Hundor in that lane, so punishing him at every opportunity.
Every time they see him, they're just trying to attack. Good target prioritization coming out of SK right now, and the Shatter Glass is just picked up. I've noticed that Hegman has been constantly filling up on minion candies. He's sitting with 3 actually in his inventory right now. They need to keep doing this. They're doing a really good job of it so far, pressuring the lane over and over again. If they make these minions tankier, give them more health, give them more damage, then they're going to push the lane further and not give Hundor the opportunity to get closer to the SK turrets.
I mean, that's an extremely good thing to stop a store actually getting to the turret, because guess what happens after a couple of seconds? They end up destroying the turret almost instantly. You can see how much damage it is on already, and Hundor really wanting to push forward. Has got Sora Blade, has got the Book of Eulogies for the sustain. Dark Potato is coming in with a Winter Spire to Tyrus just trampolines out the way. Now, SK, they've got a lot of ways to disengage as well. No forms of real massive CC apart from the active camo trap, but they've got that big bright bulwark to stop Dark Potato going in. Keanu and Hundor just taking the brunt of this Glimmer Shot damage. Cavalifar is on point with his Glimmer Shots right now.
Yeah, he is. If you look at Hegman, actually, too, he does have his Crucible available to him, as opposed to going for the Fountain first item. Doing that allows for that base health to be higher, and therefore the HP ratio for those Imperial Sigils are much, much higher. And it's great for him to be doing that, especially when you can get a few of those out during an extended team fight. Hundor, yeah, he's got that Book of Eulogies. It looks like he's
suppressing fire. Gauntlet comes out. Cavalifar trapped in there. He's going to block it. The reflex block, and the Sigil is going to heal him up. Hundor in the back line still extremely low, just trying to clear the minions because Keanu is going extremely low. 1-shot, 1-kill. Will find Dark Potato. Passageway from Hegman. Tried to get the last basic attack onto Keanu or Hundor, but it's Dark Potato they really wanted. Cavalifar finds the Glimmer Shot, and he finds his 2nd kill of the game.
Just a few minutes ago, Jaws, there was actually a gold lead for G2, but now SK has just been ranking getting more kills, and they're going to be taking this turret too. That's going to swing the gold so much in their favor now. It's about 1,000 gold in the lead, but they were a little under 1,000 in the deficit. Good for them. Hegman just picked up Fountain and more minion candy. He's just going to continuously feed these minions over and over again in the lane.
Man, they're going to have to see the dentist after the amount of candies they've been feeding him. And that's not something you see every day, Sean Ostino. Let's not lie to ourselves. And let's think back with the last time you've ever seen a Soul composition not take the first turret in the game. Honestly, I can't remember one. But fantastic play from Hegman and Tyrus. The amount of disengage and the poke that they have, they played around it perfectly. The engage came through from Dark Potato, completely denied by the Bright Bulwark. And then you have Cavalifar just ripping through people with the Glimmer shots. And you can see them doing that just now. Both teams flaring each other out as G2 tried to start that gold miner, but with zero priority in this jungle, it seems, especially when it comes to vision. They're going to have a tough time doing so.
We have nearly identical items for the weapon power items coming out for both Cavalifar and Hundor at this moment. Sorrow Blade, Book of Eulogy still in their inventory, and the Tyrant's Monocle, so they can both hit with a lot of crit damage here too, and they're going to really hurt. But the thing is, we have both the junglers with a lot of harass, and here we go.
That's just a lot of harass. There's the one-shot one killer as well for harass, but Keanu has got the full the metal jacket to tank up a lot of those glimmer shots to start off with. Hundor taking one too many glimmer shots. Keanu trying to tank them up in the front line, but he takes a little bit too much damage. Hundor now using that roadie run to get out of dodge, although SK looking to find Dark Potato. He dashes forward but didn't spot Cavalifar, and he finds himself yet another kill. SK, they tried to chase with a passageway, but it is looking sunny side up for them right now. 4-1, and they're going to go straight to that goal miner.
It's looking like a very sunny morning on the Halcyon Fold, Jaws. SK turning their attention to the gold miner here. I feel like Cavalifar, every time he's in these team fights, he's actually being ignored. He actually went around the north side of that team fight, and he was able to rain down glimmer shots like nobody's business. But the thing is, he ran out of glimmer shots, and that reduced his damage output. He was focusing on just getting some auto attacks off. Once he got another glimmer shot up, he was able to take out Dark Potato.
Hundor wants to set up his immobile turret, but Tyrus is going to jump forward using the trampoline and find another kill with the Munions. SK refusing to let Hundor do anything in this game. He's going to go back to the base, and G2 running for their lives as Cavalifar is going to be able to clear out some of those minions. With the first gold miner going over to them as well, that's going to be a massive gold bounty. They're even starting up the Crystal Sentry.
Yeah, they're starting that up. If you actually look over at the inventories here, there goes the Crystal Sentry over to SK. Dark Potato and Hundor both have infusions that are level 8 burning out at the moment. So I feel like that may have not been the best thing. Sure, they're trying to get an early edge in the game. We are sitting at 11 minutes into this game right now. But I feel like that extra gold, that 500 extra gold, could have gone towards some better itemization and just improving their tier 3 items that they have. But the turret's going to go down now.
Yeah, G2 are going to punish SK when they did back off after that Crystal Sentry and take their first turret of the game. They're evening the turret deficit. However, Eggman, like you were mentioning earlier, is stacking up on those minion candies, so they're going to be able to push the lane a lot quicker and actually hold the lane as well against Hundor's Wrath. Speaking about Hundor's Wrath, suppressing fire does open up on Tyrus, dropped to about half HP. Right Bulwark stops the engagement of Dark Potato and Keanu for the time being. Cavalifar using that range advantage, but the gauntlet comes down straight on top of him. He's going to block it with the reflex block. Even the active camo trap found Keanu. Keanu going extremely low. One shot, one kill. Won't quite find him. In fact, only tags Dark Potato. Hundor's still healthy in the front line, but without his tanky front line, he's going to have to back off rather quickly. And SK still looking for an engagement. There's the portal into the Bright Bulwark. Suppressing fire opens up, not doing a whole lot of damage, but he's completely spun up right now. Fountain for SK, still looking to disengage as Hundor uses that roadie run to just get out of there as quick as he can. Dark Potato running away with that fortified HP. SK refusing to step off the gas, even find another couple of glimmer shots on Hundor and take the Crystal Sentry for the second time.
That's another delicious Crystal Sentry for SK's troubles. They got punished there with losing their own turret, but they're coming back and they're still not letting off the gas, just like you were saying. It looks like they're going to take the gold mine too, uncontested, because all of the members of G2 are still in their base, buying up items, doing what they can to recover from that last team fight. They didn't lose anybody in that last team fight in the jungle, but they were so low on health, they might as well have been dead. We do see some Journey Boots coming out for Dark Potato, so that's going to allow him to really engage into these team fights here and just poke even further. We know that Rhyme wants to get on top of everybody in the team fights. He wants to throw out those Winter Spires, get that extra bonus damage from hitting him again. He wants to root people up with his chill wins, and doing that, it's going to make it easier for Hundor to hit these targets with his suppressing fire, with his auto attacks, which are just going to do so much damage once he's spun up. But the thing is, they've got to have Hundor survive. Look at him. He's sitting at 0 and 2 right now in these team fights. And it's a really difficult thing for him to be able to kill any members of SK if he's constantly being killed himself.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, SK did run into G2 and they ended up losing out to them. And I can assure you that they've probably forgotten about that moment. Come in fresh-faced and fresh-minded and just making sure they place their best potential. And that's exactly what they're showing us right now. But Hundor opening up that suppressing fire. Cavalifar poking away those glimmer shots. Journey Boots activated for Dark Potato. He finds the root on Cavalifar. This is the perfect time they wanted to fight. Gauntlet comes down as well. And that's Cavalifar falling, biting the dust. Hundor just chunking away at Tyros. Has to use that trampoline to get away. But the Munions and the spontaneous combustion will trade 1 for 1.
Oh my goodness, Cavalifar did go down during that fight though, but so did Hundor. So both the high damage carry were taken out of the picture. It was a really unfortunate thing that the Crucible wasn't timed appropriately for Cavalifar to actually exit through the gauntlet wall to the south. Because he got stunned up and then he just got deleted afterwards. So we've got to see Hegman really prioritizing when to use that Crucible best to be able to protect Cavalifar, because Cavalifar is the main damage output here. We do see 3 kills on Tyrus, and he's doing a lot of work as well, especially with those Munions. He's able to harass so much. He's got Dragon's Eye as well, so he's going to be able to stack up a lot of damage. Working on the Broken Myth, it looks like, to be able to bypass some of the shielding. We don't see that much shielding on the side of G2, so they're going to have to pick up something to protect themselves against Tyrus, but it's a really difficult situation here, and it looks like SK's looking to fight.
Yeah, they're looking to push this turret for the time being. Hundor has got that double monocle, but so does Cavalifar. Look at the damage he just does to Tyros. A couple of basic attacks, but that will be healed up. Dark Potato comes in with a Journey Boost. Nice bright forward to get them out of there. Valkyrie came down as well, but it is going to get blocked by Hagman. Cavalifar pushing forward. Keanu very weak at this point in time. Nice route actually does land to Hagman, but Cavalifar is already in the back line. In fact, has to reposition himself with the boost. Gauntlet straight on top of Tyros, trapping him in place. Uses that to get out of the way. That reflex block was perfectly timed, but it was a little bit too late as Keanu does take the kill. G2 now, finding one, are going to be able to chop this lane.
Oh, that one shot, one kill hits Kiana Nakoa. But he's just so tanky right now as this Arden. He hasn't died yet, but check this out, Jaws. He actually has more kills than Hundor and Dark Potato put together at this moment. Kiana Nakoa is doing a lot of work with his hitting and punching and blood for bloods all over the place, man. SK turning their attention to, actually G2 turning their attention on the Kraken, and it looks like they're taking this in quick fashion.
Well, yeah, look how fast they take it. We got to respect Hundor damage, but will we see another Captain steal? Oh, not quite. Eggman triggering the sigil, but it didn't quite land. G2 now have the Kraken on board, and this is the scary thing, especially with a Saw. You come up against Saw when he's completely spun up next to your turret trying to take it, you're going to find your face full of lead. And with that Kraken as well marching down the lane, you've got 2 big targets, 2 big priority targets you want to take down ASAP. But needless we forget here, Sean, Tyrus, Cavalifar, they got a couple of kills each. In fact, Tyrus has got that Broken Myth online now as well. It's going to be very easy for them to take down this Kraken rather quickly.
I must say this game has been really back and forth, actually more leaning towards SK, but now that Kraken is on the leash, this is a 4th very tanky member of G2 that is just coming to this choke point turret. These are going to be really difficult, and they need to be played very carefully by both these teams right now.
Valifar taken so low by the Winter Spire, even accidentally walks back into one. Gauntlet will come out. Trampoline just stops Tyrus, but they're not going after him. They're trying to hunt down Cavalifar. Active camo stun 3 people on G2. They end up having to back away. They still have to deal with that Kraken, however, and the regeneration is in favor of SK. Using those sigils, they're going to focus down that Kraken. In fact, Cavalifar taking chunks out of Keanu, but Tyrus going extremely low. Hundor kiting forward, finds the petal, and they will be able to take down the first turret. it. Gavalifar kiting backwards. Keanu going extremely low. They find one. Valkyrie gets dodged out, but that second turret will fall as well. And Hundor just rips apart Gavalifar. They're going to be able to take game number 1. Hundor just absolutely came in clutch at the end. The crystal explodes in what seemed to be an SK game to start that one off.
What an amazing first game here in EU today, Jaws. G2 taking it to the objectives push. They did what they needed to do. They went with their win conditions here, which is just, you can't just kill SK. You've got to push the turrets. You've got to push the objectives. And doing so, they ended up taking the Kraken. And with one push, taking down 4 turrets. That is exactly what SAW does. SAW do push.
The amount of one Kraken pushes we've seen over the last couple of days is actually insane, and G2 continue that trend. No captain steals came through, unfortunately, but Hundor had no kills until the last few moments of that game when he racked up 3 deaths on the side of SK. What a fantastically well-played game by G2. Played to their win conditions perfectly. They take game number 1. But we're going to jump back over to the desk, and they're going to break down the G2 victory a little bit more.
What a game coming out. We thought G2 would be coming out of the gate swinging, but it was SK that started off strong. But then G2, once they got that SAW rocking and rolling, Hundor just could not be stopped in the late game team fights. And G2 managed to go 1-0 up in the series.
Yeah, a great start to this game from the side of SK, but eventually the weakness of a Crystal Petal came through. Those Munions were getting deleted in these fights. As soon as they started suppressing fire, a spun up SAW, the Winter Spires from Rhyme, all 3 of those things just burned through those Munions so quickly, and Tires was not able to have the same level of effect in the late game as he had in the early game.
Indeed. I mean, also there was the fact that Hundor farmed so incredibly well. He was even ahead of Gavalifar despite of how the early game went. The early game went over to SK, but Hundor continued on farming well. He understood that as long as he gained the gold to get the items he needed, he would be able to get the journey boots, for example, the double monocle, so that he can execute on his win conditions and burst down targets.
Absolutely. Now, we expected G2 to be on the front foot during the early game, but the first blood was actually a trade back and forth as G2 were trying to siege their first turret. We have a replay of that, and we should be able to have a look through this fight as SK engaged onto G2.
Yeah, and SK did a great job defending these early pushes. Excellent positioning from Gavalifar when they were trying to push up onto those turrets so he could get the shots onto Hundor. But then G2 continued to chase down. They do find themselves the trade to make that early game even. But Gavalifar in the lane was doing such a good job dealing with this SAW. And you saw it was pretty much just a 2-on-2 up in the lane the whole time. The turret didn't take a whole lot of pressure.
Absolutely. But then the next few minutes was when SK started to take things into their own hands. We have a couple of clips of Hundor being hunted during this early game. This was SK taking control of things.
Yeah, I mean, they started the early game really well, and this was later on towards the mid game when they could start team fighting, and they just used their range advantage, closed in onto the SAW, who was very immobile, so the Glimmer shots would land on him. This was a little bit later on when G2 managed to catch the Kestrel, and this was one of the turning points for the game, because after this happened, they were able to just back away, recollect themselves, and then think about how they want to approach the game. We talked about the early game. SK did an incredible job of both holding the lane very well and the jungle, and that was actually credited to Hegman. He was rotating in between the two, helping his carries survive their matchups very, very well. So after a very impressive early game and a good start to the mid game, you got to question what happened to SK.
Yeah, it all started to fall apart the later on in the game we got, and then we can see the final team fight coming out from G2. It felt like there was nothing that the SK could do to stop Hundor just mowing through the health bars.
Yeah, and again, I don't think this is what happened to SK. It was just G2 came back on. Look at the Petal Munions. They're gone. When this fight started, Hundor threw down a suppressing fire, and one Winter Spire took out all of the Munions. The rest of the fight, Tyrus is just doing everything he can to try and get more Munions back, but they are being destroyed the moment that they spawn. G2 is just doing such a good job of taking Tyrus' damage out of these fights, and once Tyrus doesn't have the damage, they can then go in and find the kills onto Gavalifar, find the pressure onto the objective. So it was all about just the way G2 played in the late game. It wasn't so much that SK fell off or SK played poorly in the late game. It was that G2 knew exactly how they needed to win these team fights.
I mean, I would also disagree there because Lyra never picked up an Atlas, and there were 2 team fights in the mid game after SK were winning the team fights where they ended up teleporting in onto a Saw and a Rhyme that you just want to keep your distance. At first, I thought SK, okay, have a very clear understanding of they want to keep their range and just use the glimmer shots, but then they started teleporting in, and since you don't have an Atlas, that does not work for you very well and ended up backfiring both times they did it. And that was when G2 started getting the gold leads they really needed to finish out the game.
And then at that point, it was already too late for SK. Once you've made that mistake a couple of times with a Saw against you, that is going to be snowballed into a victory. Let's take a look at the damage done during that game. It was Kvolifar actually topping things off with his glimmer shots, and Tyrus beating Dark Potato as well. But it's not just about the damage at the end of the day, it's about where that damage goes.
And it's also about when that damage comes out. I've mentioned it a couple times where I would love to see the first half of the game versus the second half of the game. With Tyrus, he was able to get so much damage down early on, but I can't stress enough how important it was that G2 were focusing those Munions in the late game team fights and taking Tyrus effectively out of the fight without even having to damage him specifically.
Yeah, I mean, it's very true because Petal, it's pretty known. It's common knowledge that once she gets to her late game, her damage drops just because the Munions start being eliminated very quickly. Again, I feel like SK, had they played the clean game and continued on using their range advantage, never given over the lead to G2, they could have closed out the game. But it was the teleportation, using the Lyra portals without an Atlas, just a mistake that was unnecessary and very uncharacteristic also of this team.
Yeah, an issue of shot calling, which is not what we usually see from SK. But into the second draft now, Arden will be taken off the table by SK, answered with a Catherine ban from G2, which means Blackfeather will be the first pick.
Yeah, Blackfeather available now. G2, if they want to go for the Rhyme, they can answer with that one, although we've seen a lot of teams not take the Rhyme and then just Rhyme gets banned away in the second rotation. So expect that to happen now as G2 grabs that Lyra pick.
I wouldn't be surprised if this was a captain ban as well. It seems like G2 want to remove as many captains as possible from the side of SK and then picked up the Lyra for themselves. I wouldn't be surprised if they go for a Kestrel as well on the second rotation because Catherine ban kind of hints at that they want to play Kestrel, and since Blackfeather has already been picked up, it's possible, but the other obvious choice would be something like Corona or the Vox versus the Blackfeather.
Yeah, you got to figure that SK likely going to end up with a Lance on their rotation, so G2 can kind of plan around that because it is just a very likely pickup. And they're going to ban away the Saw, not wanting to deal with Hunter Saw. The Baron will be available for him if he decides to go that route. But likely, typically when we do see the Baron come out for G2, it is actually their last pick. So they want to make sure that they know exactly what their opponents are running. Without the Rhyme getting banned, though, G2 able to pick Rhyme up on their second pick. It's not very common that we see Rhyme get picked up that late in the draft.
Yeah, I do like the fact that they picked up their jungle second so that they have the last pick for a counter in that lane matchup. They have the Kestrel still, the Rona, the Baron. They can see the entire composition of SK before deciding what hero to give to Hundor. So it's a very smart approach from G2, playing around their strengths. The Rhyme, while it is very strong, it did not work for them last time, and SK could still pick up Petal here and play her with Blackfeather. That would be a similar matchup, and worked out well for them in the early game, but it did not work for the late game. I said Rhyme did not work. I was talking about the early game, excuse me, but later on it worked really well for Dark Potato, so he's looking to replicate perhaps something similar, just with a better early game.
We'll have to see where SK are going to go with this one. Just 12 seconds of bonus time remaining, and with the Blackfeather, there's a lot of directions you could go. But Catherine already taken off the table, so that alongside of Batiste wouldn't be available. Lance locked in, though, for Hegman. This is one of his premium picks, something we've seen him play a lot on in the past. I'm curious to see whether this Blackfeather ends up in the jungle or in the lane.
Yeah, and like I said, it was very much expected to be that Lance pick for SK, and now they're going to grab the Petal again, so they kind of keep it flexible. They say, okay, you know what, G2, you want to wait and see what our full comp is so that you can decide what you want to run. We're going to keep you guessing because now they can still flex both of these carries into either position based on what G2 does. And this is one of the things that SK has been able to do in the draft in the past, is get these two flexible picks so that they can then see what their opponent is going to run and make their decision of who's going to go where based on that full information.
And that is only possible if you have two carries that have very wide hero pool. If Blackfeather was not a good carry for both Kavalova and Tyrus, and Petal was not the same, then they couldn't have been able to pull off a strategy like this. So SK playing around their strengths the same way G2 are. Let's see where their last pick is going to be. Baron is a possibility, but if you're picking up a Baron against a Blackfeather weapon power, that could be dangerous. And since SK still have the flexibility, I feel like they have an advantage in this draft right now.
Yeah, the Baron wouldn't be a terrible pick. Yes, you would have to worry about the Blackfeather, but you'd be able to have that same situation as Game 1, where once you get to the late game, you can clear out those Munions exceptionally quickly, especially with the AoE from Baron and from Rhyme. Both of them could do it, but Jewel is going to be the selection. So it's once again one of these situations where the Munions, it could be at risk if this is a Crystal Petal. I would very much rather see SK run a weapon Petal in the lane against this comp from G2.
So we are going to have a brawling composition coming out from G2. All melee aside from the Lyra, but Lyra certainly enables those melee compositions. But on the other side, kind of the opposite situation.
Yeah, I'm going to expect SK to actually run Blackfeather in lane just so that they have a decent matchup in the jungle. Regardless of who they're going to put in lane, they're still going to have a weak laner versus the Jewel because she's really strong and she can pressure very effectively. So it's if they put the Petal in lane, then they also have a losing matchup in the jungle. While if they put Petal in the jungle, that's kind of more even and they will have a place where they can fight. So it's still going to depend on their preference, but G2 definitely going for a very aggressive early game composition similar to last game, and they're just trying to go all out in the mid game especially.
Yeah, the reason I would rather see the Petal be up in the lane is because, yes, you're giving yourself a weaker matchup in both roles, but you have to be thinking about the mid to late game. In Game 1, G2 had a weaker matchup, or as it played out, it was a weaker matchup, but then they were able to win because of the late game power, and I think SK need to be focusing on that late game power here. Otherwise, we could end up with just a very similar situation where the Petal just becomes ineffective later on because those Munions are getting taken out.
All right, well, due to some shot calling errors from SK later on in Game 1, we saw G2 go 1-0 up in this series. This could be the last game of the semifinals. We could see G2 overtaking SK in points as they move to the finals. But SK don't want to go down without a fight. Hashtag Vainglory8. Let us know whether you think it's going to go to 3 games. It's time to pass it back to Jaws and Sean Ostino for game number 2.
All right, let's get it on. Jumping onto the fold. SK over on the blue, G2 over on the red. Now, what situation have they landed themselves in, Sean? G2 need one more win here to secure themselves the spot in the finals. And then a couple of point variations could still land SK going the Worlds, but it makes their job considerably harder if that's the case.
It is a very difficult situation that SK is in now. They've got to do, if they want to make it, they've got to do a reverse sweep now. They have to go 2-0 on here just to guarantee themselves, yes, we're going to punch our ticket to Singapore. Now, SK, they've got a lot of team utility coming up. Of course, we know Hegman, great on this Lance. Once he gets an Echo, he's going to be able to do double impales, double get the end walls, just set up for his carries.
Stolen away by Captain again. Mark that one on the board. Hegman's going to take the first Elder of the game. Already SK off to a good start. Although one thing I wanted to point out from last game as well. SK took the first turret at 8 minutes. Nice double route onto Keanu and Hundor there. So with their composition, will they be able to do the same thing? Because against a Jewel that can clear Wayne so well, it's going to be a lot harder. You could say.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult because Jewel does have that heroic perk, and that's something that G2 can utilize very well. Her heavy plating that she has, her front and sides are very well armored. She has bonus armor there. Now, if she can just keep herself front-facing the enemy, then she could end up standing and fighting very, very effectively. She just has to get to late game. Once she's able to get level 8 power spike, she'll be able to critical strike with her Thunder Strikes, and that's going to be very effective, a great tool for them. I feel like they could chain their CC too, as long as Dark Potato actually gets in there. It looks like he's getting rooted up right now, though.
And a double root as well. Oh, the Elder Treant he knocks out of it. That's going to be a Githian wall, and it's going to actually get stolen by Tyrus there. So G2, after not the flyingest of starts, not the quickest of starts either, and SK now pushing them into their own lane. Looks like Tyrus actually going to go for a sneaky invade here as well. It's level 4 as also, and it does actually require Dark Potato to get that recall off and actually wander back to his own jungle as he took a lot of damage in that initial trade.
But SK is doing a little bit of counter jungling now, stealing the backs, Tyrus is, over on the side of G2. Really well done by him. They're taking every small advantage they can get right now. And we're up about 600 gold for SK right now, 2 minutes 40 seconds into the game. It's pretty good for them. If they can just keep this up, they're going to be doing really well for themselves. But yeah, there's a lot of CC, like I was saying earlier, from G2. If we have the chains of roots.
Nice impale. Hang on a second.
Oh.
Nice impale. Oh, Hundor made it out. I always forget the Rocket League was taken, so I got a bit over anxious there. I was like, SK, maybe they find first blood here, but Sundor did Rocket Leap away, and Keanu was with the Sigil as well. But Hegman just keeps landing impale after impale, mind you. His impale percentage is pretty damn high right now. Kavalivar's going to go for the recall here. 2,200 gold in his inventory. We'll be able to pick up some boots, 6 sins, and some extra weapon power damage.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Kavalivar doing his work on the weapon power pedal. But yeah, earlier you just mentioned the Rocket Leap. Well, the Rocket Leap chain that CC with the Winter Spires, getting the chill winds off. That's just going to be a lot of CC and the bulwarks too that are going to be coming out of G2. And what CC do we have for Hegman? We've only got Impales and Githian Walls, and those are both coming out of one hero. So it's going to be a tall task for SK to be able to just use their CC that they have in their kits, whereas G2 has got a lot more CC on their side. So they could potentially lock down one of the members of SK very effectively.
Big about locking down. They want to try and find Kavalivar up in this lane, paying him a visit. Hegman's going to pay him a visit also. Going to provide the support and guidance that he needs during this laning phase. Now we see Hundor actually probably going to move towards, you can imagine, a Sorrow Blade, maybe even to some crit as well, so those Thunder Strikes will start racking up in damage. And that's something I guess SK are going to have to be rather mindful of. Is Kavalivar going to prioritize some really early armor? Is Tyrus going to do the same thing? Or are they just going to go full kind of glass cannon and hope they can burst through Hundor quicker than Keanu can heal him up?
Well, we do see some light armor picked up by Hundor, and that is going to make a little bit of a difference here early game. But she doesn't necessarily need, this Jewel doesn't necessarily need that much armor because of her heroic perk. She's going to have that heavy plating that she can use to her advantage and pretty much go glass cannon with her build. Just go ahead and build a lot of critical strike, a lot of the Sorrow Blade's already been picked up, and that's going to be making the difference with these Thunder Strikes here.
Imagine if Lance had a heroic perk like Catherine's. Every time you like root someone up, you gain some additional armor and shielding. That would be super broken on Hegman because the amount of CC he does have and the amount of CC he does end up landing. Nice, get him all back into the turret. Tyrus is going to be here as well. Hegman going very low. Valkyrie comes out also. Doesn't quite hit anybody just yet, and G2 looking to disengage. Don't want to give any early kills up for the time being. Tyrus still with that level lead as well on Dark Potato. Really done a good job of taking away most of his jungle whenever he's had the opportunity to.
5 minutes into the game here, Jaws, and we do see the ultimates coming out for each of the carries on both sides here. Tyrus is going in a little bit, but he backs off. So, anyway, Rose offensive, very effective for him to be able to get in and out of there on Tyrus. Kavalivar has got that spontaneous combustion, so he can actually heal up a little bit, be able to sustain himself here in the lane. But also that trampoline, he hasn't hit the level 8 power spike on this pedal yet, but once he gets this trampoline at max rank, then he's going to be able to get that extended range, that 20% damage bonus as well when he trampolines, kiting around these fights. That's the best, most effective way that he could possibly do that.
Well, big item spikes coming through for Kavalivar and Tyrus. There's Sorrow Blade on Kavalivar now. Tyrus has got his Aftershock. So we discussed yesterday, actually, when we saw an Aftershock build on a Black Feather. Something that we see more the Asian regions doing. I think most of NA and EU do build that Shatterglass first, just for the upfront burst damage, but a more duelist kind of build here from Tyrus really wants to get on Hundor and make his damage stick. Although right now, Hundor making it stick on Cavalifar, those Thunder Strikes are hurting him a fair bit, although Tyrus now picking up an early infusion. Impale does land onto Keanu Nakoa. Look at that damage as well from the Aftershock, forced to vault the Flask. It's defensive backwards for Tyrus. G2 still have got the sustain advantage using that sigil, and it's something Hegman's going to have to keep in mind. Impale does go a little bit wide, only rooting out the minions, and now it's G2's time to play, it seems.
Yeah, they're going to have to watch out for that. Tyrus, he did get his on point off. He dove in on Keanu Nakoa. That's not who you want to focus necessarily. Sure, the Lyra was going really low, but they weren't able to catch her. I feel like he probably needs to prioritize boots next. And it looks like G2's sieging up this turret. Yeah,
Cavalipar's very low on energy also. Nice Impale actually onto 3 members. That Sigil will get him out of there. And that's the biggest thing about Lyra as well. If you get a triple Impale, yeah, Sigil's going right underneath me and my teammates, and then we can speed up before anything else can happen. That's exactly what they did do. Now G2 pushing in because they've now known that Cavalifar is going to go back here and get that tornado trigger. Nice root does land to Hundor, uses that rocket leap to safety as well. G2 are having, SK are having a lot of troubles here actually making the damage stick. Hundor's got so mobility and so many ways to get out of the fight. Not only does he have heal from Keanu, he also has that rocket leap, and even he can throw a couple of thunder strikes back as well if they do decide to go extremely aggressive. G2 playing their own game right now and at their own pace, something we know them to do, and something that they proved in game number 1 they can do quite proficiently as well, playing around those power spikes. We thought it was all over when SK took that early turret. It was like, oh, it's pretty much done, right? SK, they can snowball the game, but Hundor just waited silently and patiently for the time where he can just open up on the saw. We'll see if he can do it on the duel again.
Yeah, it looks like he's actually hit that level 8 power spike now, Hundor has, and his Thunder Strikes are going to be something to deal with right here. But Cavalifar also has hit his level 8 power spike as well, so that's something to look out for too. And we're sitting at 9 minutes into the game right now, 0 kills for both sides, and Hundor's getting rooted.
Hundor's a little bit caught out, does get impelled, just rocket leap straight into the middle of the team and just deletes Cavalifar. First blood to G2, but Tyra's not happy with that. Tries to go back in, but he is in a 1v3. Hegman gets the nice 2-man Impale, and they do end up killing him also. Tyrus goes down. Hundor finds 2 kills in the early game, and G2 are now off to a flying start.
Wow, look at that. Just one team fight in 30 seconds, 2 kills going over to the side of G2. Really well done. And you can see there the amount of work that Hundor is able to do now on this duel. Look at the damage onto this turret. It's so hurt now. Oh, man. And Hundor is just able to frontline so much damage coming out of Hegman. Sure, he's a captain, but yeah, they're able to just duel a little bit. And Hundor just brushes off like, my heavy plating's fine. Let's go, Mechie, go and get out of here.
Well, SK want to get at least a little comeuppance for themselves, and that'll be Cavalifar jumping on that turret. Should just be able to take it here, actually decides to back off. He's scared of Hundor's damage, and I would be too, as he's got a monocle on board now. And now Keanu working his way towards... He's got an energy battery, actually. What could that possibly be? A bit of energy regeneration? Could be an echo. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Double Bright Bulwark will hinder their ability to engage.
Yeah, double Bright Bulwarks would be great, or even double Imperial Sigils too, to just increase the sustain and healing on their side. And their speed and movement boosts too that they get from popping those Imperial Sigils would be really, really good. We know that Dark Potato on this rhyme, he wants to be able to get in there too. He wants to be able to brawl and fight, and there we go.
Speaking about getting in there, they jump straight onto Cavalifar again. He instantly just melts. Tyrus and Hegman just didn't have time to react. The pedo ends up falling, and G2 find themselves yet another kill.
Oh my goodness, the rocket leap was a thing of beauty, and they're not done yet.
Oh no, they're not. Well, Hegman says yes they are, as he does get a 2-man Githy and walks straight into the dead turret, but they lose that first tier turret as well. G2 wanting to make it to the finals in style here, Sean.
Yeah, you know what would be great too would be a double arcane passages coming out of Keanu Nakoa. If he's able to get an Echo and do that just over and over again, the cooldown is so much lower on the Bright Bulwark and Imperial Sigil compared to the to the arcane passage. If they're able to just do that, team fights back to back, that would be a thing of beauty. Just to get in there, throw down the Bulwark, shut down the movement-based abilities that are coming out of SK, and they could just, even throwing down an Atlas Pauldron, we do see an Atlas Pauldron on Kiana Nakoa, just to reduce the damage per second that's coming out of Kavalifar.
Hundor is the main carry for G2. It's always looked that way, whether it's Celeste or now his Jewel. He is 3-0. The biggest win condition right now is just making sure he survived the fights. And to be honest with you, he doesn't really mind too much because he just jumps in there anyway. Rocket Leap straight on top of Kavalifar. Big red button was used to try and disrupt Kavalifar's back, but doesn't end up finding him, does get it off in the end. And now SK playing very defensively now, because right now G2 have got all the money in the bank and even a lot of those front camps as well. Looking for maybe an engage here. Keanu setting up for a passageway into a Bright Bulwark will be something they would desire, but ending up just taking away those front camps, just starving SK of gold now.
Yeah, they're starving them. It's about 3,500 gold in the lead now for G2. 3 kills in their pocket, and we're coming up on a couple of minutes left until the Kraken spawns out of the Halcyon well there. But G2 just having their way with the front half of the camps, stealing away that golden experience that we know Kavalifar and Tyra's need to just keep getting their items online that they need to be able to duel here late game. G2 is playing the smart game here, and with Hundor just being able to kill so effectively right now, 3-0-0 right now. He's got Tyrant's Monocle, Sorrow Blade, Tornado Trigger. I would expect him to maybe even sell off that Healing Flask and get himself another weapon power item here.
I mean, why not? You're doing a lot of damage. Why not even more? I mean, realistically, he's not going down in these fights. Big red button used actually just to clear the wave there. G2's wave management has been really good as well. We've got to say, SK, they've been really hard pressed to actually farm these waves up and actually just push them back in. The waves do provide a lot of vision, although they are jumping straight in on to Hundor, and he's trying to, with that heavy plating, just doing so much work. Rocket Leap into the back line, and now Tyra's taking the majority of the damage. Valkyrie did land onto Kavalifar, but he's already going to go down to a Winter Spire, and now it's Tyra's versus the world, but he is going to go down to the darkest of potatoes. Goldmine is going to get started up by G2, and they are booking their ticket to the finals today here, Sean, if they can keep going like this.
If they can keep going, indeed, Jaws. And check what happened in that fight earlier. So we actually saw that Hundor was being focused very effectively by Kavalifar and Tyra's that time. His health bar went pretty low, but you know what he did? Use that Rocket Leap to get him out of that situation. Using his Rocket Leap to reposition like that took a lot of the aggro off of him and allowed Dark Potato to do some work. He got himself a couple of kills there too. So we see once Hundor leaves the fight, he's not aggroed anymore. He's not being focused by the other team members. Comes back in, and we're able to see him get some additional damage as well, allowing Dark Potato to finish them off. Really well done by them.
I mean, they say they want to win not once a couple of weeks ago. They say they want to win twice. We want to take it to the finals. And with that, obviously, we've got to keep in mind that there are a couple of situations that SK still make it to Worlds. It's getting a slimmer and slimmer opportunities now. Kraken has spawned. G2, remember, they did take it pretty much off spawn at last game. But that was with a saw. They do have a lot of damage in Hundor. Kavalifar stepping up, but Keanu is going to put that sigil down just to keep everybody sustained. Now let's talk about Kavalifar's build in a second, because Hegman's actually going to get a triple impale. They're going to jump straight on Kavalifar, and he already dies. Valkyrie's going to come down as well, but it doesn't quite hit anybody. Tyra is still running away. A Rocket Leap on top of his face, and Hundor is going to crit him not once, not twice, but 3 times to take him out. Dark Potato is going to secure the kill, and Hegman on the run, and that will just be the captain, last member alive, while the Crystal Sentry goes down, and G2 setting their sights possibly on the Kraken here.
Oh yeah, they're going to turn their sights on the Kraken pretty soon. We already see that Hundor is going to be starting it up. He is kind of low though, so it would be great for the rest of his team to come back and provide some tank against the damage that this Kraken is going to be outputting here. But Hegman's trying to be a distraction, just getting in there, looking for a possible Kraken steal. They should turn their attention to him.
Yeah, I mean, he could see SK back in the game if he gets the steal, and Impale does land, but look at the damage coming out from Hundor. That armor plating doing so much. Another rocket leap in. That Kraken still not taking it. Finally goes down to Dark Potato. Hundor's still not dead. Actually, take that back as Tyros finds the kill. A passageway out for Keanu to try and get himself out alive, but Tyros is going to have to run and gun him down. Now it's Dark Potato versus Tyros as he just lets that Kraken walk down the lane. The damage coming out from Tyros, though, the execution and the crystal damage coming through for the on point was too much for Dark Potato. He's going to turn around and flee, but not before that Kraken is going to open up that base.
Dark Potato did what he needed to do there, just to provide a distraction to allow the Kraken get to this choke point turret. Really well done by him, and we know that Blackfeather and Lance are not the best at objective taking. So thankfully Cavalfar's here. He's going to be having a lot of damage onto this Kraken now. But Dark Potato had to back in that fight at the end of that fight because he was out of energy too. He really couldn't do that much.
SK, they're not out of this game just yet. They managed to actually save the choke point turret there with an inch of HP left, but Hundor's going to be able to not look twice at that, and it's going to go down. That's something that they've got to keep in their heads and keep in the front of their minds. Infusions picked up across the board here for G2 as well, looking to end the game. And might I say as well, Hundor's actually gone for this 3-item build, this 3 damaging item build of the Tornado Trigger, Sora Blade, and Monocle, picking up some added defenses so he can survive longer in these fights. Very unlike Cavalifar, who's just been getting deleted, who is still prioritizing more damage, looking to go into a Monocle for his fourth damaging item.
Yeah, Cavalifar has not been doing that much. Sure, he's got a little bit of damage output, but he needs to be able to survive longer in these team fights. He's 0-5-1 right now. With all of those damage items that he has, it's probably not the best investment right now. That Crystal Sentry is going over to G2. 1 life remaining on that SK Sentry. And SK wants blood. They're mad. They're going in, Jaws.
There's blood in the water and SK can smell it. G2 have wounded them enough now to the point where they are mad. They're going to turn green and hopefully go into a Hulk-like rage, because right now they're going to need someone like the Hulk to actually come back. Hundor is way too big. He is 6-1 on this duel. Almost a complete build as well. Looking to go for those tier 3 boots as his last item. This is in a bad situation for SK. They just seem to need to let Cavalifar, or make sure he keeps himself alive in order to actually output the damage, because like you just rightfully said, Sean, he just gets deleted in the fights. Like he's getting a little bit of damage out, but more often than not, Hundor just goes Thunderstrike and another Thunderstrike and you're done.
Not to mention the rocket leaps too. When he's able to get those things down, he's actually been landing them very effectively, stunning up either Tyras or Cavalifar. And if you stun up one of these heroes, they're not able to output the damage that they need to as a carry to stay relevant in the fights.
19 minutes on the clock. That Kraken is going to spawn yet again as we see a 6,000 gold lead open up for G2. But we are at that point in the game where gold is starting to mean less and less. And it comes down to your prowess as a team and prowess and your team fights as well. G2 still want to defend this tier 1 turret. Hundor is moving up, but it's going to get destroyed before he can actually make to way his towards the lane and destroy the minions. So Cavalifar will secure their first turret of the game. The G2 looking to make a small engage possibly, but will get flared out.
Yeah, it looks like G2 may be moving towards the base and probably go for a sneaky little ambush here. If they're able to get this off, this could be SK's hopes and dreams of Singapore dashed.
It could be. SK moving forward. Hundor's going to be the target. And Impale does land. He turns round. Thunderstrike and a massive rocket leap in the back line. But Hundor going solo, but so is Cavalifar. Cavalifar kiting back with that trampoline. Manages to take him out. G2's wing con is all but dead. And now it is only Dark Potato and Keanu to back off. But Keanu manages to solo out Cavalifar in the back line. That 4-5 HP is working wonders for Dark Potato at the moment. And Tyrus has to pop the boost to get away. But Keanu's going to match that with a passageway. And he ends up killing him as well. Supportal combat as he ends up finding 2 kills in the fight. Dark Potato, are you even needed? Apparently not. Hundor's going to pick up those war treads in the meantime. It's only Hegman to fend off G2. I'm not sure Kraken's on the board at the moment, but they still win out the fight so handily.
Kraken is on the board at the moment. I don't know if they'll be able to take it, though, with Hegman hanging out there. And Dark Potato and Keanu and Nicole were pretty low from that fight on both energy and health. But I love seeing the Principal Arcanum on Lyra just doing so much work finishing off Tyrus in that last fight. It's a beautiful thing when you see a Lyra just throw out, as captain too, throw out one of those auto attacks and just hold it down a little bit longer, let the last auto attack, the second one, come in, boom, finished him off. He was at such low levels now, low health. G2 starting up this Kraken, it's going over to them unless we can get another steal.
Eggman, oh no, the Bright Bulwark, yeah, it was going to block him, actually engaging in on that, and that Kraken is going to be on the board for G2, but this time around, Sean, they are all alive for this push. Last time it was only Dark Potato who had to get the recall off, and it was Tyrus, Kavalafar and Hegman that had to deal with it, and they were able to take it down before it did any major damage. But now it is a 4-on-3 with that Kraken on the side of G2.
Oh yeah, Kraken is on their side, and they actually protected it really well too while they were capturing it. We saw that Echo used very effectively. Keanu Nakoa threw down the Bulwark twice with that Echo, and it was really well done. And they're approaching this choke point turret. It's pretty low already. Kraken is going to be working for G2 now. Woo!
Oh, there's the passageway. Bright Bulwark War Trade's popped as well. Gippy and Wall knocks back 3 members of G2, and the Atlas Pauldron is popped. Nice impale straight on to Keanu, and that will be Dark Potato going extremely low, but Hundor jumps straight on Kavalafar and deletes him again. Tyrus is going to fall as well. G2 find 2 kills in this fight, and Hundor is an 8-2. That Kraken is at half HP, and that'll be G2 taking the base turrets and taking the crystal. They're going towards the finals, and that'll be SK's hopes just slimmed down to a narrow possibility of them making worlds, and G2's possibilities have only just exploded.
Oh my goodness, Jaws. This victory for G2 means so much. Now the gap has been closed between G2 and SK to a mere 1 point. And now, SK can no longer get any more points for the rest of the weekend. G2, going to the finals, now has the possibility to get more points, to increase their lead, or something else could happen. This is a crazy, crazy story for both these teams, and I'm excited for what happens at the end of the day.
G2 need to win exactly 1 match in the finals, and they are done. And that'll be them punching their ticket to Worlds. SK better hope, pray on the Vainglory gods, and that doesn't happen. But we'll have to wait and see. We're going to jump over to the desk. They're going to break down that G2 series win over SK some more.
There we have it. G2 taking this series 2-0. And honestly, convincing victories in this series as